Hello and welcome to Best of the Bets. My name's Christina Nicolaides, and as usual we're looking at this weekend's football action. We have 4 Premier League games. We're also looking at the FA Cup. I have our usual guests with me. I have Sam Diamond, who's our football expert, and he's the editor of bestofthebets.com. We also have Mr. Bookie extraordinaire and new dad. You have chosen a name.
Yes,
Nathan.
My name's Gareth Walker and my son's name is Nathan Walker.
Fantastic. We're going to start with the FA Cup. We're going to start with Everton versus Wigan.
For this game, Everton are 1.4, the draw is 4.4, and Wigan are as big as 7.6.
I think Everton will beat them, and I think this is a game that's going to go a similar way that many Everton games have gone this season. It's something that Gareth's spoken about at length. I think both teams will find a target here.
It's 27 out of 34 now for Everton games. The stat, it just keeps springing out so many times. Yeah. I mean, recently we had Reading last week, totally outplayed at Goodison, and yet still got on the score sheet at the end. Oldham twice. So many different teams have scored. And also another angle for that is that Wigan have scored away from home in their last 10 games. So there's really potential for goals, I'd say. The both teams to score is priced at 1.95, which looks a really big price, particularly in view of the fact that Everton have got a few problems at the back, really. Phil Jagielka injured last week, doesn't look like he'll be around for a little while, which brings back Johnny Heitinger, who I've spoken about before, out of form, and they're wanting to give him a rest, but he's going to have to play. Changed the goalkeeper last week as well, not sure how that'll pan out. So actually, although I've been very bullish on Everton for all season, basically, I'm tempted to give Wigan a go here, 7.6 to win the game. They can play with a bit of pressure off, perhaps. Go for it. Goodison is a bit of a tense atmosphere recently. I'd certainly expect plenty of goals, maybe 2-1 Wigan, 16.3, 3-2 Wigan, 31. Certainly wouldn't rule out the draw. The one bit I do really like is Sean Maloney to score the first goal. Wigan have only had 1 penalty this season. Should have had several more, actually, including in the game in the league earlier at Goodison. But he's 17 to score the first goal. Kevin Friend's refereeing. Not averse to giving a penalty, and with a potentially disrupted Everton backline, early penalty for Wigan I could well see. So yeah, Maloney at 17, I really like that.
Definitely think there'll be goals. Gareth mentioned Johnny Heitinger. You've also got Ali Al-Habsi in goal at the other end for Wigan, who some sparkling displays at time, but I believe he's the player who's been at fault for the most goals this season. So yeah, it's goals for me, but I think Everton will probably nick this 3-1.
3-1, which is 10.3.
Okay, so the next game we're going to look at, Manchester City versus Barnsley.
1.12 they are to win this game, which is an extraordinarily short price. Draws 8.2, Barnsley 19 for any romantics.
Man City seem to have got themselves back on track. They had that little blip in the league where they took 1 point, I think, from three games, or no, 2 points from 3 games. But now they've bounced back, 3 wins without conceding a goal, and they haven't conceded a goal in the FA Cup this season, albeit they have been helped by an absolute buffet of a run.
It's not bad, yeah.
I think this is their the 3rd championship side at home, and away to an out-of-form Stoke was the other tie.
And they're also playing at home as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And,
so strong at home.
And I think with the players who have come in like sort of nostalgic rather than savage last season, they've got a little bit of strength at the back. So if they decide to rotate, I think they're capable of dealing with a Barnsley side, albeit one that have been sort of quite prolific in front of goal recently. I believe they scored in their last 19 games, is it?
They're on fire.
Yeah, and they've really sort of had an upturn in fortune since David Flitcroft took over from Keith Hill. But I don't really give them a chance here. They should be more concerned about their fight for survival in the Championship. Yeah. And I expect Man City to win this 3-4, 5-0. And I like them on the Asian handicap, minus 2.75.
A couple of ways of going. The minus 2.75 on the Asian handicap is priced at 2.3. Basically means if they win by 3, that's good news. If they win by 4 or more, that's great news if you back that. I'm really trying to find some angle to get with Barnsley, because that price. So I mean, 19. It's big, and it wouldn't be the biggest shock of all time if they did win. Although the betting is so one-sided. One stat I do like about them: 72% of their goals are scored in the second half. So one way that I'm going to get with Barnsley is to take Barnsley to score the last goal in the match. That's priced at 4.1. It's probably only going to be a consolation, but I think at the price I'll give that a go. Can't unfortunately make a case for backing Barnsley to win the game.
Gareth, what are the outrights for the FA Cup?
We've got Manchester City as favourites, primarily because they've got that easy-looking quarter-final tie. They're 2.5. Then United are 3.1. Everton 4.8, Chelsea 6.5, got the tough trip to Old Trafford. And then the other 4, not really fancied. Wigan are as big as 31. Obviously that'll plummet if they can get past Everton. Millwall 43, Blackburn 52, and Barnsley 201.
Oh, bless. We're going to move on to the Premier League fixtures. We're going to move on to Reading versus Aston Villa.
2.35 for Reading to get all 3 points. The draw's 3.4 and Aston Villa a 3.1.
Aston Villa gave it their all against Man City on Monday night, but still never really troubled the champions. And I think there were 2 incidents right at the end of that game that just kind of summed up their season for me. First of all, Fabian Delph picked up a needless booking in injury time. That's going to be a big loss because he has been quite influential in recent times. And the other thing was when they had a corner 3 minutes into stoppage time, 1-0 down, attacking the Holt end, and Matthew Loughton just floated it straight onto the top of Joe Hart's goal. But I think it just showed a real lack of a calm head on the pitch, and it's that experience that they lack that we've spoken about so many times.
Another individual error for the goal as well.
Yeah, Kieran Clark, and I mean he's had a good season, but he does keep making these mistakes, and it is costing them points. They need experience. Ron Vlaar may be back for this game, but we've said this so many times now, it's not making any difference. But I think the way I'm going to go with this game is that both defences are poor. They've conceded over 100 goals between them. I'm looking at over 2.5 goals, which I think has landed in Reading's last 8 home games.
It has, and that's priced at 1.8. Looks a solid bet. I'm going to just take a bit of a punt with Villa on it, just because Reading have been so out of form. We talked about Reading's ability to score these late goals, and we're thinking, well, is that resolve or is it luck? Based on the last few performances, you think, well, maybe that they had their sort of purple patch. They were sort of a bit over expectations in terms of how well they did there. Got a couple of points you wouldn't expect them to. So I'll go with Villa, although I think near the end of the game you could see Reading absolutely battering Villa. It could be a real entertaining game. This is the game I'd love to go and see of anyone the whole weekend. 3-3 maybe, priced at 25 if you fancy a big priced interest there.
I think we should go on a road trip.
I think we should, yeah.
Not with the car parking around Majeska, it's awful.
Not much nightlife after either, I don't think.
Right, we're going to move on to QPR versus Sunderland. There's 10 points between these teams, but we saw Loic Remy score last weekend.
Well, I'd say this is a relegation 6-pointer as well. Sunderland aren't out of it yet. QPR are 2.2 to win this match, 3.4 for the draw, and Sunderland are 3.5.
I'd agree with Gareth. Sunderland aren't out to the relegation battle by any means. And QPR have given them a chance where nobody really expected them to have one. And Harry Redknapp may yet again prove that he is one of the luckiest managers in the game.
Can he really do it?
QPR looks strong without Taarabt. He didn't play in the last game. And it worked for them.
I still think they were quite fortunate to come away with the win. The tactics may have worked, but I'm not sure if QPR can really be without the person who's pretty much been their best player over the past 3 seasons. But they have given themselves a chance, and this is certainly a game they'll be targeting. If they're going to win this, though, they are going to have to overcome a lot of statistics that are going against them.
They've heard of just never scoring at home, for example.
They haven't scored in their last 5 home games, and that equals an unwanted club record. So they're going to have to score a goal if they're to win. They also haven't won back-to-back games in the Premier League since they came back up. And they also haven't beaten Sunderland in 11 meetings. So everything seems to be going against them there. But Sunderland is just... we've said it for so long, and they look like they got out with it with that run of wins, but I still think they're in there.
Their problems can be summed up in 2 words. Danny Rose.
Well,
seriously, got the stat. They've lost 37% of games where he started, and they've lost 54% of games when he hasn't started. And he's missing for a while. He's such a key player for them. He's not there. They've only borrowed him. But it's a great stat. How much store you put in that, how much influence can one player have, is arguable. But they were, I thought, a bit fortunate to get a point against Fulham. That's twice they've been a bit fortunate against Fulham. 30 points. They're still not safe. Still need a bit more. If you do think that Sunderland can nick it, Danny Graham's priced at 8.3. I'd imagine he'll be involved at some stage. Sessegnon, who's come into a bit of form, a bit of encouragement there for Sunderland fans. He scored the last 2 games. He's available at 10. Or if you think that maybe Taarabt will be restored, he's 7.3 to score the first goal.
Well, these two played out a very turgid 0-0 draw at the Stadium of Light earlier in the season, and I think it's going to be a similar, very cagey game. Sunderland have lost 5 of their last 7 away from home. I think QPR will just nick this 1-0. QPR at 2.2 for me at a bet.
1-0, which is 6.4. Yeah, I'm going to go with QPR. Only won 1 out of 14 at home. I'll put my faith in them this weekend.
Okay, we're going to move on to Norwich versus Southampton.
Norwich 2.4, draw 3.4, and Southampton 3.1. Another really fascinating fixture, this one.
Carrow Road is a hard place to go, and we have to remember that only 3 teams have won there this season, which are Liverpool, Manchester City and Chelsea. Games are tight, as I've said before. Norwich, all 7 of their wins this season have come by a 1-goal margin, and that's how I'm going to take it this week. Norwich just to edge past Southampton by 1 goal. That's
priced at 4. I actually like the other way. I've been disappointed with Southampton the last couple of weeks, but I think they have got enough quality. I just think fundamentally they're a better side if they can play. Southampton by 1 goal is 4.5 actually, which is the way I'm looking. The fact that Norwich have only scored 2 goals in the last 8 games is what swings it Southampton's way for me in this one.
Okay. Right, we're going to hear from what our guru has to say. Mike Holden is going to talk about Norwich versus Southampton.
There's a familiar pattern developing at Southampton under Maurizio Pochettino, similar to the pattern when he first started out at Espanyol. He also plays a very similar game to Marcelo Bielsa, and it's a similar pattern to what happened with Athletic Bilbao when he first took over there, in so much that it takes players a certain amount of time to get used to the methods of this high pressing game, and early results can be pretty poor. So I can see Southampton's poor run continuing at Norwich this weekend. I think the last 2 games they've played have been against former managers Alan Pardew and Harry Redknapp last weekend, and they both kind of followed the same blueprint. They've set up the teams in very similar ways and exposed the full-backs at times who go high up the field. And I think Norwich are catered to play exactly that sort of game themselves. Happy to sit back, let Southampton come onto them, and can spring them quite quickly if they get in behind. So I think tactically it's all set up for Norwich to have some joy.
OK, so that's Mike back in Norwich. That's 2.4. We're moving on to West Brom versus Swansea.
West Brom 2.35, the draw 3.4 and Swansea 3.1.
Swansea in great form.
I don't think there'll be much happening, to be honest. We may well see Swansea on autopilot now. They've got that silverware in the bag. And away from home, they haven't really pulled up trees lately. They failed to score in 6 of their last 7 away from home.
Play some nice football without any end
well, I think the same can be almost said about West Brom as well. Both teams be quite content, I think, at the weekend to soak up pressure and do their attacking on the break. And I can see this ending goalless.
Goalless, which is 11.1. I fancy the bet I like here actually is Swansea by 2 or more goals, 6.3. Just if they get in front and they can play some good football, West Brom have to chase the game. Yeah. Swansea could finish them off. A lot depends really on. There's a lot of question marks against some of West Brom's key players injury-wise. If they're all fit, then they should be all right. But if there's a couple of like Jakob, Reed, Olsen, Long, Brunt, I think it's question marks against all of them. If a couple of those miss out, that'd be definitely worth getting into Swansea quite close to kick-off.
Then again, the Jakob-Malumba partnership has been absolutely key since they came back. So I'd wait for the team news.
Best bet for Saturday?
Based on the prices, I can't resist going for Wigan at 7.6.
2 stand out for me, and they're in those relegation games. I go for QPR at 2.2.
Okay, I like QPR to win, but I also like Reading to beat Aston Villa.
Reading, who are 2.35.
Okay. Remember, for you to place your bets, our website is www.heavenbet.com. You can tweet us at bestofthebets. And to watch this show back, head to www.bestofthebets.com. Join us after the break when we look at Sunday's action and the European Games.
Betting site from Poker Heaven.